Hello, good morning. A very warm welcome to all presenters and delegates and participants to today's webinar. Before going to the actual agenda of the day, I will quickly present the housekeeping rules. Please note that the webinar is scheduled to last for 2 hours, and the webinar will be recorded, after which published at the matchmaking event website, as well as on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. The participants are in listening mode, and if you'd like to make a question or a note, please use the question and answer box or the chat box. So with that, we can move to the agenda of the day. This webinar plays a very important role, and it's designed to prepare to set up the grounds for the actual matchmaking event, which is taking place on the 5th of December. You see in the agenda, we will start with the policy overview, and then we will move to the EU access to finance, talking about as well on the resource efficiency technologies, then this panel on innovative circular fertilizer production methods, as well as renewable energy deployment. So without further delay, I would like to give the floor to start with the policy overview. I hope we can welcome Helen Dayan-Dash, Deputy Head of Unit, Food Ecosystem Unit, DG Grow at the European Commission. Dayan, Helen, you are with us. Just want to make sure that Helen is with us and has no problem of joining us to start with her speech. Bear with us for a few minutes, few seconds. So while we are waiting, basically I can use the moment of introducing some important aspects of obviously I will repeat them at the end as well of today's webinar, but as already said, the webinar today is to prepare and to set up the grounds for the actual matchmaking event. Hopefully today with the agenda you will find important information on the aspects related to the agri-food sector. We'll be talking on accelerating resource efficiency, renewable energy. Towards the preparation for the matchmaking event, we will be having next week as well technical webinar, which will give you all the details related to setting up your profiles using the best use of the B2Match platform. The matchmaking event will take place online through the B2Match. And next week, again on Thursday, we will be discussing exactly how to make the best use of the B2Match. So I understand from the colleagues that Elaine is having some small, let me just check. Yes, Elaine is having some technical problems of joining, so she will join a bit with a delay. So we can start with the policy with the next speaker, going to the EU funding opportunities. I would like to present George Rapp, who is the Policy Officer, Access Finance Unit at DG Grow. So George, you can take from here. The virtual floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. I would now share my screen to show you some slides.
Perfect. We see everything's fine, so please take over.
So, hello again. Today, I would like to give you an overview of EU financing programs for businesses with particular focus for your sector, the agri-food sector. On this slide, you will see many companies. I believe you will know some of those very successful companies, but maybe you don't know what they have in common, what they all have in common. They all received support by the EU, and we're very grateful that they have become so successful and we could help them on the way. So how can businesses get EU support? Basically, there are two types of EU financial support. Indirect financial support in the form of loans or equity financing for investments and working capital. And on the other hand, there is also possibility for grants for research or other topical programs, or public procurement, meaning if the Commission and its institutions want to buy some goods and services from companies. In order to apply for loans or equity financing support by the EU, companies need to find out which local banks and equity investors work with us and apply directly with them. The Access to Finance website is the one-stop shop for applying for loans and equity financing supported by the EU. On the other hand, the funding and tender portal with the web link below on the green box is the central access point to find all calls of proposals for public procurement and grants available for businesses and citizens. Let me walk you through how to apply for loans and equity financing supported by the EU. So businesses need to visit our website, Access to Finance, to find financial institutions that provide financing in their country, contact them and apply directly with them. I would actually like to walk you through the process. So on our website, users can actually select a country, for instance, the residence of a business. And when selected Malta, for instance, we have an overview of all the banks and equity investors that work with us under the various programs. It's an interactive website, so users can actually select specific to their financing needs, what they are looking for. For instance, are they looking for a loan? Are they looking for an equity investors, or even the investment focus? I'm very glad that starting from next month, we will expand actually the advanced filter options for investment focus to include all of the 14 ecosystems under the EU industrial policy, including also what's available for the agri-food business. So users can actually select what type of financing they need and then apply directly with the bank. For instance, in Malta, we work with Bank of Valletta. And when users click on Bank of Valletta, they will be having an overview of not how to contact the bank, but also the general terms and conditions, what's available, what is the investment focus of our agreement with the particular bank or investor. One important thing to be in mind, it's not free money. It's not money that the European Commission via the local partners provide for free. Businesses actually need to repay a loan or even an equity investment. So what is the difference between a normal loan and a loan support by the EU? Well, thanks to our support and thanks to support from our local partners, companies can get easy access to finance. For instance, a loan with reduced collateral requirements, lower interest rate, or lower fees. And sometimes, particularly for startups, for instance, where they don't have any credit history, and many banks and investors are reluctant to actually finance startups who don't have a credit history. Thanks to our risk-sharing arrangements with the local banks and investors, we push them actually to finance also startups with no credit history. Now, I was digging through the website to see what kind of banks and investors actually work with us with particular focus to agri-food sector. An example of 3 agreements that we have, for instance, under the COSME program, we have an agreement in Germany to provide finance, particularly for businesses in the agricultural sector. We have also an agreement with Yield Lab. It's an equity fund with financing startups in agri-food and agri-tech sector, supported by the EFSI program. And there is, for instance, another venture capital fund active in Paris region, which also financing businesses in the agri-food and agricultural sector. That's only a snapshot of examples of banks and investors who work with us under the various programs. On average, each year, over 200,000 businesses receive support by the EU in the form of a loan or equity financing. Here's an overview of the results only for one small country, Belgium. Since 2000, over 17,000 of businesses received support. We mobilized together with our partners over 3 billion of financing. And below you will see a picture of 2 women who started up their own company producing handbags. So we, together with our partners, we do finance various companies, sectors, and we are grateful for all the help we can provide them. So what is available? A wide range of financing is available. Loans, equity financing, or financing for leasing purposes. Who is eligible? Any type of company. We provide, together with our partners, agreements for startups, for larger companies of any size or sector. One important thing to be in mind, the decision to provide you financing will always be made by the local financial institution, such as banks or equity investors. The exact financing conditions, such as the amount, collateral requirements, will also be made by those local financial institutions. So businesses need to contact 1 over 1,000 institutions and investors that work with us to find out more. Currently, since we started with the new program period, we have a roadshow in various countries in order to inform, first of all, banks and equity investors about the new programs in order to find and conclude agreements with them to mobilize, hopefully in the future, even more financing to local businesses. Now, a bit more boring, but also important to be in mind, what's behind actually all of those financing opportunities. It's programs, European programs supported by the EU budget, thanks to the agreement between the Parliament and the Council. For instance, in the current financing program, we work predominantly with the InvestEU program, where we have a 26 budgetary guarantee. And together with our partners, we hope to mobilize over 370 billion of investments into the EU economy. The big focus would be on the digital transition, green transition, but also the recovery after the COVID crisis. A big focus is also on the providing financing, particularly to those businesses who face most difficulties to face financing. So how does it work actually in practice? As mentioned, entrepreneurs and businesses on the right side of the graph need to contact local banks, microfinance providers, or equity investors to apply for loans and equity financing supported by the EU. But what is behind? It's a bit more complex. The Commission, together with its partners, actually are in the process of concluding agreements with the so-called implementing partners, like the European Investment Bank Group. And then the European Investment Bank Group can either finance directly, particularly larger infrastructure projects, or conclude then specific agreements with local banks and investors. And we make sure, together with our partners, that we actually provide the financing that was intended in our legal base, in our programs, meaning to the policy objectives. One new element, for instance, it's also with structural funds. There's a lot of financing that is supported by the EU budget, where managing authorities are actually responsible for implementing on the local level, but they can also ring fence part of the budget to the InvestEU program and also under recovery and resilience facility. But the process all stays the same for the various programs. Businesses need to apply directly with a local bank or equity investors available on the Access to Finance website. The InvestEU program also has two other pillars. One is an advisory hub that provides advisory services to identify, prepare, and develop investment projects. It's available for project promoters and intermediaries. And particularly for smaller SMEs, next to the advisory hub, there's also a lot of services being provided by the Enterprise Europe network, where businesses and citizens can contact them to receive further information, but also information about where to apply for financing. A third pillar of the InvestEU program is the InvestEU portal. I remember for early next month, you will have the matchmaking event. The InvestEU portal is our matchmaking portal, where project promoters can actually meet investors. It's available for investment projects above 500,000 euros, and over 1,300 investment projects are already registered on the portal. Investors, we have over 300 who are registered on the portal, can actually then screen through the different investment projects and see whether they're interested to contact them, and then arrange, for instance, for a pitch or to receive further information from the project promoters. I mentioned earlier, there is also a second type of how businesses can receive EU support, financial support. It's through call for proposals and tenders by the European Commission and its bodies. And the funding and tender portal, where you can see the web link below, provides a central access point to all calls and tenders published by the Commission and its central bodies. It's also an interactive website. For instance, users can type in Agri-food and then see which calls are currently or will be published in the future in this area. It includes also opportunities under the European Innovation Council and other programs by the European Commission. And companies can also receive the help from the Enterprise Europe network or national contact points on the Horizon Europe program to apply actually to the various calls. One important element to be in mind, most of the European grant programs have a European dimension. What does it mean? That we're actually looking intensively for calls that are submitted jointly by different partners. There are a few exceptions, for instance, by the ESC accelerator, where it's also possible for one single company to apply. Now, I do know that for early next month, you are planning to have a matchmaking event, and we do quite a lot of training to the Enterprise Europe network to then provide training to their clients, meaning entrepreneurs and businesses, how to approach banks and investors. We do understand it can be quite difficult to attract funding, particularly when a company really needs it. So we always try to guide them, help them with the pitching. And there are many elements to be in mind, which are important. For instance, the company should think ahead, plan, take advice from people who have already done so. work out exactly how and what sort of funding they actually require, and then see whom to approach. There is a difference in a startup with no credit history, what kind of investors they can approach, and a bigger company with already some very important track record. They are more looking for investors with expansion and growth stage focus. So it really is important to plan ahead. And then when approaching them, provide the investors with all the information they're looking for and in which format they want. So some of them want more written information, some of them want actually to meet the companies and have them pitch their investment proposals. Companies should then communicate effectively, but also honestly. There's a lot of information they can provide, but they should try to summarize the objectives, particularly with a focus on the commercial. So for investors, it's not important to sell a product or service, but really sell the business behind. So this would be all from my side. I do wanted to give a bit more time for questions from the audience, and maybe Theodore can help me if there are already some questions from the audience, and happy to take them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, George, for this overview. In the meantime, while you've been presenting, we have shared some of the useful links that you have presented. We will also ask the rest of the, after we finish with this panel, we will open for question and answers. There were already one or two questions, but let's dedicate time for this at the end of this panel.
So maybe I will start also by putting all this event a bit in the context. Since I think it is quite a very timely event, we're trying to actually help with the agri-food ecosystem to embrace the opportunities for resource efficiency, circular economy, and different technologies, with a view to improving, the present difficulties that it is facing, especially with regard to the inflation of costs at all the different levels of the agri-food value chain. So this is why we have proposed to organize, especially for the small and medium enterprises, this matchmaking event with a view to actually building on the best practices which have been deployed by big companies and also by, in some cases, smaller companies in different agri-food ecosystems across the European Union. What we see is that it is very important that we really build on the experience of the companies which have already made investments in resource efficiency, in circularity technologies, so that actually smaller companies can also see that it can be positive for their competitiveness. They can reduce the cost and they can improve their situation in those times where they are probably struggling with their margins. So that is why the code of conduct that we have on the Agri-food code of conduct is a very good instrument, and we would like actually to build on this. Next slide, please. So I'm going to present you the code of conduct which was developed last year by the different stakeholders in the agri-food ecosystem, with also a lot of industrial players, with a view to actually defining sustainability and healthy diets transition for the different companies in the ecosystem. Next slide, please. So the code of conduct is part of the Farm to Fork strategy. It was proposed in the Farm to Fork strategy. It is a voluntary initiative, so it was really developed by industry with the very active support, of course, of the European Commission and the very strong also willingness on our side now to support its implementation. The idea is that all across the food value chain, so especially starting after the primary production, there are possibilities to improve the sustainability impact. There we were thinking not only about the environmental sustainability, but of course also about the social sustainability. There's a dimension in the code which is about that. And to also help actually have some better orientation of the food which is proposed to consumer, with a view to those consumers being able to make better choices in terms of healthiness of the diets that they are actually having. The idea was that either companies will actually sign up to the code, implement one of the different actions, or eventually a large number of those actions, or that they could actually have even a more ambitious agenda, in which case they will actually present this very strong commitment and the actions that they put in place for that purpose then separately. Next slide, please. So the code is proposing actions along the following 7 aspirational objectives. So as I mentioned, healthy, balanced, sustainable diets, but also the prevention and reduction of food loss and waste, which is very timely for time being. We know that a lot of this food loss and waste is still happening at a later stage of the value chain, that will be at the consumer level, but nevertheless, everything which can be done before that in the value chain to reduce food loss and waste is welcome. The climate neutral food chain in Europe, notarize circular and resource efficiency food chain in Europe. And that's where actually we thought that, especially in this context where energy costs have skyrocketed, it would be very important to give the opportunity to companies which are interested in eventually deploying some renewable energy solutions to then find, through a matchmaking event, the best solutions for them. So best solutions under all angles. George presented before also the possibilities of access to finance. We think this is something which is also not to be lost in mind, because what we hear is that for the time being, many small companies have actually a cash flow situation which is quite tight, and they're also quite hesitant actually in doing some long-term investments in a context where their margins future is a bit uncertain. So this is why we thought that it would make it would be a good opportunity to give actually the possibilities to companies in a given territory which are interested to do that, but which would prefer to do it in common in some kind of a cooperative model, for example, or in cooperation with a bigger company which is ready to make a significant part of the investment. So to do that really in a cooperative manner, so that it reduces the investment risk for the small companies, it's not impacting its cash flow, and it could benefit from renewable energy at a lower cost very quickly. So that is why this deployment of renewable energy is one of the focuses of what we want to do in the matchmaking in December. I mentioned also already that it's not only about the code of conduct, it's actually not only about the environmental sustainability transition, but also on this social dimension. Finally, this yesterday's notion of sustainable value creation in European food supply chain through partnership. So this is totally in line with all the objectives and the actions which are done through the cluster cooperation platform or through the Enterprise Europe network. That is actually true partnership between companies, actually improving the value creation and providing more opportunities. So this is for the 2 first windows of this matchmaking that we're going to have in December. So those are exactly corresponding to the code of conduct. And so this is why we think it is very important that all the companies which have already, and the umbrella organizations which can reach out to companies which have implemented the code, can participate and can eventually share their best practices. Of course, the best practices are going to be hosted on the cluster coalition platform, because we have already there the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Center, ERIC, which has an extensive database of examples of companies in the agri-food ecosystem having implemented renewable energy solutions. The one of the objectives also of EREC was very clearly that all the best practices and the renewable energy solutions which will be presented on its website will actually also be very cost efficient, so that it will be demonstrated that by investing in those, the companies will actually improve their margins. It will not be just an investment to have some environmental sustainability benefits, but which might be detrimental to their margins. It is quite the opposite. So this is why we really want to continue this demonstration. And the code is providing this global vision and also showing, yes, that commonly all the ecosystem can actually improve both its competitiveness and its sustainability. Next slide, please. The third window of the matchmaking event will be actually about fertilizers. We have currently a situation of fertilizer production crisis in the EU. This is caused by the skyrocketing gas prices, since most of the nitrogen-based fertilizers were actually produced using natural gas. So this is why the Commission has actually made a communication recently on how to ensure the availability and affordability of fertilizers in the European Union. And where we are analyzing the situation in this communication and explaining that a transition is needed towards other methods of producing fertilizers, and preferably towards a different diversification of the different methods that we can use to produce fertilizers. So one of the most promising avenues for this transition towards reducing the dependence on natural gas to produce fertilizers and improving also the carbon impact of this fertilizer production, it's of course producing them with green hydrogen. But that requires significant long-term investments, and it would probably not be wise to actually shift from one dependency to a full dependency on another technology. So this is why we thought it would be also very important in this new context to give the possibility to all the companies which have actually invested and which have solutions, even if it's on a smaller scale now, or ideas on alternative technologies to produce fertilizers, to actually get them the possibility to showcase and to find eventually investors for those new alternative ways to produce fertilizers. So I'm thinking there especially, of course, about organic fertilizers, green fertilizers, but we really wish that all the different innovative solutions can be provided with an opportunity to actually, yes, present them and invite investors in that field. So those are the three windows of the matchmaking. So we will build on the existing community of the code of conduct and those companies and those stakeholders, so the umbrella organizations which can reach out also, and we hope we will have so participants there too from companies across the EU. So that is why we really want to have this focus on this transition towards circularity, renewable energy solutions being really the win-win that we're saying all agri-food companies should be given an opportunity to embrace. Then renewable energy, we understand that it will probably have to be done in many cases in common, and it makes much more sense actually in terms of stability also of the renewable energy deployment if you bring together different technologies. And finally, those are fertilizers. I will conclude by informing you already that the Commission has proposed to member states, and no, we are in the process of the adoption of the single market program for next year. We have proposed for next year to launch agri-food sustainability cluster partnerships. And so I think this would be a very good opportunity for all the agri-food ecosystems across the EU to collaborate together, and also to collaborate with other agri-food business organizations, which might not yet be present eventually on the cluster coalition platform, The idea is really to create a much more collaboration across the ecosystem, because we realize that it is really very strategic and really crucial for Europe that we help the agri-food ecosystem to have better control on its costs, and especially on its energy and different input costs. So that is it for me. Over to you, Theodora. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen, for this overview. It really gave a set of the scene for the what's next, not only for the matchmaking event, but what lies ahead. What are the aims and priorities for the next year as well? So thank you very much. I mean, I had no chance to present you properly earlier because Sam experienced some technical problems, while at the beginning you've been having some technicalities to join us. So, but this is when we're having online events, and this is unfortunately happens. So thank you for this overview. You will be staying with us. So if there are questions from the audience on a later stage, I'm sure that you will be able to answer. Of course, we continue sharing important links and information for the audience, as well as I'll repeat, this webinar will be recorded, as well as all the information will be shared on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So for everyone who even it's not with us today, we will continue promote the webinar as well as the different presentations. So this could be available for those willing to join the matchmaking event. So I will continue with the EU Access to Finance session, and I will give the floor to Veronica Madner, the Policy Officer, Environmental Sustainability, R&D Support, DG Agri. So Veronica, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to share my screen. One moment, please. So, share.
No good. Yes, you can go on full screen mode. And this...
One moment. Doesn't. Okay, I hope now everybody can see my slides. So thank you very much for the invitation and for the possibility to give you today a short overview on the funding opportunity under rural development, the Agricultural Fund for Rural Development. The EAFRD is part of the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy. And within the CAP, we are following 9 specific objectives at EU level. So I would like to start a little bit with the framework. So we have 3 objectives, which are mainly targeting economic objectives, and many are really related to support for farmers. Then we have 3 objectives, which are targeting environmental and climate objectives, and 3 objectives which are more related to the development of rural areas, the socio-economic development, which is also relevant for rural businesses. And these 9 specific objectives are complemented by a cross-cutting objective, which is related to knowledge and innovation. And I think for this event, or for this stakeholder group, it's important that we have on the one hand the environmental objective when it comes to the production of renewable energy or resource efficiency, but then we also have the objective which is about growth, creating jobs in rural areas and supporting businesses in rural areas. Just very short about the budget for the Common Agricultural Policy. As you can see here in this slide, the main part goes to direct payments, so the beneficiary are farmers. But we have the second pillar, the Rural Development Fund, where also other beneficiaries apart from farmers can receive support. And here it's also important to mention that we are seeing here the numbers for the EU budget, and for the rural development, member states have to provide additional national money to co-finance the EU budget. So this is increased. The normal co-financing rate is 43%. So it is more or less a double of the EU budget. So what are the possible support instruments under rural development? I made a selection for the most relevant ones, I think, for this audience. First of all, it's important that all support measures have to contribute to one or more of these 9 specific objectives. So this is always important to keep in mind. Yeah, and I selected 4 categories. There is one broad category of investments which can be supported. It can be dedicated to farmers, but also to non-farmers. And in rural areas, businesses in rural areas, for example, where it can be related to the production of renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, but also about the production and processing of agricultural products, but also non-agricultural products. Then we have the category of startup aid for rural businesses. We also have this for farmers, but it goes beyond. When the business, when it's following a non-agricultural activity, when it's part of a local development strategy. The next category is the cooperation category, where we can fund especially the cooperation costs stemming from the cooperation between different actors. And in this context, it's also important that there is the possibility for knowledge exchange and dissemination for information. So support for knowledge transfer and advisory services is also possible through the CAP. In general, the support under the CAP are grants. And when we are talking about investments, it's, for example, that 50% of the investments costs can be funded. Under the rural development, it's also possible to include financial instruments. Yeah, so far from the EU level, what is really important to mention here in this context that for the implementation then of our policy, member states had to draw up national CAP strategic plans. So we are here under shared management. If you want to apply for support, you do not apply directly at the Commission services. It's through the member states, through the administrations of the member states. And this means also that if you are interested in getting support, your source of information, your first source of information is the CAP strategic plan established at member state level. So based on needs assessment and then intervention strategies, member states can then decide which support measures they want to include in their plan and they want to finance with the budget. So they have to contribute to the 9 specific objectives, and we have also some certain rules how much money has, for example, has to be spent on environmental issues. But it's really up to the member state to define then in detail the eligibility criteria, the support rates, and so on. At the EU level, we just provide the framework for it. And the CAP strategic plans will be, we will start the implementation beginning of next year. At the moment, we are still under, maybe you are familiar also with the rural development programs. We are still implementing the rural development programs where also support can be provided. And it's quite similar to the CAP strategic plan. And now just, I know that we are already over time, so I just wanted to put a few examples what has been funded under the rural development programs, and I think that the slides will be provided to the participants, so I will not go into details, and you can have a look. There's also a really nice video from a Polish furniture company. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will stay then for possible questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Yes, this is, there was a question already that whether the different presentations will be available. Yes, we will make available all the presentations apart from the video recording, so you will have a chance to explore all the useful information and summaries in the presentations. So we'll go move forward with the presentation was of Nicolo Giacomuzzi Moore, who is head of the Administration and Finance Unit. Yes, we see your presentation. So,
thank you. I will share my screen. Now it should be okay. Let me know if it is correctly shown now.
Yes, it is correctly shown. So
okay, perfect. So good morning, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this workshop. I really appreciate this opportunity to present Circular Bio-Based Europe. There is a newly established joint undertaking that is building on the success of bio-based industry joint undertaking. There is our previous, our predecessor actually. And I think it is pretty interesting that my presentation comes after the one of DG Grow and DG Agri, who are supporters of our initiative, members of our governing board. And so I think it provides a good complementarity to the overview of the possible funding instrument, where we are a small agency. De facto, we are a private-public partnership, and this is actually our aim. Our objective is to boost a competitive bioeconomy for a sustainable future, of course. And we are funding projects to deliver bio-based solution, materials, products made from organic waste and biomass in innovative, sustainable, and circular way. So we really try to cover a wider scope compared to the past mandate of BDI. We relaunched this initiative thanks to the partnership that has been established between the European Commission, that is represented by the Directorate General Research, by DG Grow and DG Agri, and the Bio-Based Industry Consortium. There is a consortium of European companies that are active in the bio-based sector and in the circular economy. So our initiative is part of the Horizon Europe program, and as a 2 billion euro budget. Half of it is put by the European Commission and the other half by the Bio-Based Industry Consortium. We are running, of course, calls for proposals, as the standard Horizon Europe program does. And also our mission is embedded in the contribution to European Green Deal. And we, of course, build on the success of PDIG. The general objectives of the joint undertaking are to accelerate the innovation. So really to support companies to go from the lab to the demonstration to the market, to the real, actually, industrial production of bio-based products. We accelerate this market deployment of existing bio-based solutions. So we work really at the early stage of research to the higher levels of technology readiness. And we ask to the companies who actually get the funding to stick to very high level of environmental performance in all their industrial processes. These are the specific objectives. I will not go too much into this. Of course, we support cross-disciplinary research in the context of the Horizon Europe program. We really integrate the capacity of stakeholders across the EU. Actually, this was one of the objectives of BDI, of our previous mandate, is actually to create this critical mass. We help in tackling environmental challenges and develop bio-based innovation. And of course, one of the main aspects, and I go back to what the previous colleague from Grow and Agri said before, is really to reduce the investment risk that still exists today in this type of companies. And we see actually that more synergy are required in this area, where sometimes companies with very good idea and very high sustainability potential, they hit a wall in terms of finding the right instrument to support them at European level, at national level, and at local level. So it is extremely important, this aspect, getting back to what the colleagues mentioned before. So this is very shortly our governance structure. We have a governing board where the European Commission, represented by RTD Agri and Grow, is represented. And of course, the industry. We have an executive director. Actually, I'm currently the interim executive director. And we have an office. So we are an actual agency of the EU, and we have an office situated in Brussels. We have some advisory bodies. The state representative are the member states, of course, the scientific committee that provides scientific advice on the call and the topics of our work. And we have a new feature. There are deployment groups where key stakeholders will help us in deploy actually solutions to support the bio-based and circular economy. And this is a novelty compared to the previous program. We are working on these deployment groups. They are not set up yet because we are almost 1 year old. So our Basic Act entered into force only in November last year. And so we are still setting up all the governance body, especially the deployment groups. Sorry. So as you see, our joint undertaking really is based on a very structured process. We have a strategic research and innovation agenda that has been established and developed by the Commission and BIC, that has been adopted by the governing board at the beginning of the initiative this year. We work on an annual basis on annual work program that generate calls for proposal. And we are, for example, right now in these days, we are evaluating our first call 22, and we are working on the topics for the call 23. So we run, of course, calls for proposal under the rules of Horizon Europe. And of course, we will have soon, hopefully, the beginning of next year, the publication of the call for proposal for 23 that will follow more or less the same timeline. Of course, we have a lot of communication activities, and we will have info days for all of you who are interested in knowing where we will fund the research. So not only the publication of the topics, but also full information about how the programs run, who can participate, where are the possibilities for enterprises of all sizes, but also research center, universities. We have a wide range of participants in our calls. We have a strong SME participation, 40% in the BBI program, which is extremely high compared to other Horizon programs. So we are all more than welcome to get in touch with us, and you will have at the end of the presentation all our contact points. So this is a bit the process that we go through. I will not stop to that because it's very standard compared to Horizon Europe, and you will have the slides available after the presentation. This is what I was mentioning before. These are the type of action we fund. We fund early stage research, really the lab research from companies and research center, and then to the innovation action. There are the demonstration phase. You see scale up and demonstration, and then the last step are the so-called flagship projects, where we have biorefineries set up by our biggest projects. And of course, we have some coordination and support action as other Horizon programs. This is very shortly the support we give to the Green Deal. We contribute, of course, to the climate targets in terms of climate neutrality, CO2 reduction, and sustainability and circularity, protection of biodiversity. We have a really huge focus on the sustainable sourcing of biomass, because, of course, we don't want to fall into any of the tricky conflict that we've been discussing this morning, also with the colleague from DG Agri. And we support the deployment of bio-based innovation at regional level, especially through the work of our state representative group. So this is just to give you a flavor of the type of participant that we have in our project. What I meant, we have a research organization, higher education establishment, and we have mostly private companies, and 37% are the participant, not the funding. The funding is even higher for SMEs. It reaches almost 40%. Just to be a bit concrete, one of the outcomes of the BBIJU that it will be replicated under Circular Bio-Based Europe are the so-called flagship projects. These are biorefineries, first of a kind, and they all address very specific sector. They are very well spread in Europe, and we see them now going into production. These are really industrial scale biorefineries that are producing bio-based and circular products and have been funded over the last 7 years by BBIGU. And of course, we look at the future with even more. Just to give you a bit an idea of the impact of these flagships, the fact that there have been 250 million of European budget going, European grant going to all these 14 projects, but this generates on the side of the industry more than 5.2 billion of investment. So it's really an enormous, 1.3 billion of private investment. So it is extremely high because per each euro of grant, we have 5 euro of investment on the side of industry. This has created 5,000, almost 5,000 direct job, 15,000 indirect job. It has an higher applicability potential in Europe, and it's achieving a very huge emission saving, as you can see from the slide. So the impact is there. We are very proud of what we do, and I would like really to invite everybody to go and look at our site. We have very nice videos showing what these flagship projects are doing and their impact achieved through the initiative. So here are our contact information. Don't hesitate. You have our website, the website of BIC, of course, but also the Horizon Europe Funding and Tender portal, where all our information about the call will be published soon in early 2023. So I close here, and I'm ready to take any question if there is any.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this. Yeah, I was about to ask, I mean, you said just that it will be published, I mean, the call will be published, all the information will be published early in 2023, because I'm sure that this would be one of the questions that usually it's come, and as well as I believe on the website, all the participants will be able to find information about the info days that they're coming.
Yes, the info day, the date is already set, is on the 20th of April next year, and it will be a physical event finally after 3 years of online event, and it will be in Brussels. So you are most welcome to follow our website. We have also a newsletter with all the information, the key information for applicants and potential beneficiaries.
Thank you so much. Yes, if there are more questions afterwards, we will come back. Even if it's not today, I mean, everyone's more, the participants are more than welcome to place questions with regards to the presentations. I know that the financial instruments, the overall access to finance, it's one of the most important question and topics always in all the webinars and conferences. So I'm sure that there will be a follow-up questions after today's event. As we are a bit running already out of time, I mean, late with the agenda, I will go directly to the next session, which is resource efficiency technologies. And I would like here to welcome on the floor Katia Ferrari. She's a cluster manager to present cluster Green Tech.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I will share my screen.
Yes.
Let me know if you can see correctly or not. Okay, now?
Yes, now. So if you can make it on a full screen. Yes, perfect. It's okay.
Okay. So nice to meet you, and thank you for having me here. I'm the cluster manager of Green Tech Cluster from Emilia-Romagna region in Italy. Our cluster is working on energy and sustainable development. Is a private association of entities. We have actually more than 100 members. 60% are private companies, both small, medium enterprises and big enterprises. The other members are research centers from universities in our region, or also public research centers different from university, and also private research centers, and also training institutions. We are trying to support our members to collaborate each others and to have more opportunities for collaboration inside our region, but also in Italy at the national level, in Europe, and also beyond. In our website, you can find all the list of our members that are very different from each other because energy and sustainable development is a cross-sectoral issue. So we are not alone working in our region. As you can see, we have a rich ecosystem. Emilia-Romagna is one of the more industrialized and innovative regions in Europe. So we are just a piece of a work that our region is doing since a lot of years. We have almost 100 industrial research laboratories and innovation centers in all the sectors that are important for our region. 10 places where the companies can meet the research centers that we named Technopoles, and also incubator for startups. The clusters are actually 7. As you can see, we are similar in the picture, the logos, because we are connected, so we work together also. All the clusters are private associations, but each is working in a vertical sector that is relevant for our economy. So we have also an agri-food cluster that is interesting perhaps for you. And you can find in the website all the information about these clusters. And also the build cluster working in construction sectors, mechatronics and motoristics, creativity, health and well-being, and ICT sector. We are the green. Okay, so we are working into value chain. The first low carbon economy is focused on renewable energies, smart energy systems, and energy efficiency and low carbon solution for industry. And also the second value chain, environmental sustainability and ecosystem services, that is working on sustainable development of coastal areas, but not just coastal areas. Now we are updating the strategic objective now, the impacts of our activities on air quality and climate changes, and the circular economy in general. This is just an introduction. Today, I would like to approach one of a sector that a lot of our members are working on. That is the production of biogas and also the upgrade from biogas to biomethane. I think that this topic is very relevant now. We, as a country, but I think that is not just one of our challenge, is to make us independent from imports of gas, but also from fossil gas. So we are trying to improve our production of biomethane, also green hydrogen, and so on. So here you can see the perspective of the entire biogas supply chain. As you can see, is gradual, but at least in the period 2030 and 2050, it's foreseen that we will reduce the production in natural gas and also the consumption and the further increase in the use of renewable gas to around 80% of the total. And this is our challenge now. I tried to illustrate how our members are working on that, a lot of them, both research centers and private enterprises. As you can see, through the anaerobic digestion, you can produce from biomass, the residual biomass normally from agriculture, you can produce biogas. Biogas is useful to produce energy, thermal energy and electricity that we are using in our national power grid. But in this process, you can also introduce an upgrade. We in Italy have laws supporting financially the production of biomethane from biogas. So the upgrade from a mix of gases that is also methane inside, but mixed with other gases, take off the CO2 and produce a good quality biomethane that we can introduce in the natural gas distribution network that in our region is very developed. So first, we are trying to have a very good quality biomethane, so free from impurities, and this is one of the sector of our work. And secondly, we are working in new technologies and sustainable technologies to use and to valorize the CO2 produced from this process that is normally released in atmosphere with some bad effects on our climate. So the pathway for the valorization are several. We can use directly for agriculture in greenhouse for the cultivation and so on, as a solvent or also and other uses. But we can also convert the CO2 in biofuels, chemical industry component, and also other component for the building sector. Finally, through power to gas plants, we can use the CO2 produced by this process together with hydrogen that we produce from renewable energy and a recovered oxygen to produce a synthetic methane. So to have more methane from CO2 and hydrogen, green hydrogen, of course. So this is just a short overview on one of the sectors that our members are working on, because we are very focused on that. As you can see, in Italy, we have almost 2,000 biogas power generation plants that 88% is from agro-livestock in Italy. And actually, thanks to our national law that is supporting the upgrade processes, we have in Italy 27 biomethane production plants. So this is just my short, I think I'm in time, contribution for the, let me share again to show my contacts if you want. And you can contact me through my email or to check in our website all our members and to search a matchmaking with them if you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katia. Yes, we will share, as we promised earlier, with the participants as well as those that were not able to manage to join us today. We will share all the presentations on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform website. As well as we hope this overview was very good, basically to hear not only your objectives, but what is the scope and towards what your members are working. But we also hope that you will disseminate the information about the forthcoming matchmaking event on the 5th of December with the members. So basically this overview of the processes could help those that are with us today to schedule properly the meetings, because obviously this the collaboration, the possible collaboration that you have just foreseen would be very useful. Thank you very much. And now, without delay, we will move to the presentation to Ian Neighbor, who is Team Manager Sustainability, Food and Agri, to present Rabobank. So Ian, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to be here. I will present myself. I'm a team manager sustainability for food and agri for Rabobank the Netherlands. Rabobank the Netherlands has a really important role in the food and agri sector with a market share of 85%. So we play a huge role and also feel a responsibility to deploy to a sustainable food system, where we measure every application, loan application for sustainability. We make indicators and we use them to measure the sustainability performance for each client. And well, you see some overlap with previous presentations with the themes which are playing an important role if it is about sustainability. It's about the energy and climate, the animal welfare, and the biodiversity and the soil quality, the collaboration in the region, and the social commitment, what we have to reach. And they all have of course, a relation with the Sustainable Development Goals. This is really important to just have a good view on the loan application and the quality of our loan. And therefore, we want to reward our clients with an interest discount or with other grace periods using European Investment Bank as funding for this. And as a part of the biodiversity, we work together with partners in the value chain and also with an NGO, a worldwide fund, to define all specific indicators which are measurable and also have a focus on strengthen the biodiversity. And these are all tooling that can be used by farmers and also is used in our portfolio to measure the biodiversity increase and to strengthen it at the end. For specifically using European investment bonds, we have specifically programs because when you reduce carbon, for instance, an example is to make use investment of solar panels, but they can also just make an exchange for asbestos-free roofs so that you can change one and have solutions at one time, creating more energy and also have the removal of asbestos on the, which is really a huge challenge and makes it a combination and also can have an impact on the climate and the reduction of the carbon footprint. Financing, because as you know, in the Netherlands, we have a huge challenge if it is about the ammonia deposition. A lot of innovations are made and also recognized by the Ministry of Agriculture as a really helpful innovation. This is an example of an innovation which can help reduction of the ammonia, and this will also need a specific finance and investment for the individual farmer. And also working together with programs like from the European Investment Bank, green bonds, but also from a business model from out of the processor and the manufacturer of this specific innovation, makes it possible to make a business model for the individual farmer to get more impact on the environment, specifically on ammonia emissions. Our contribution is a mix of specifically programs from European Investment Bank, but also from green bonds offered by the local and the national government. So we specifically for front runners for sustainability, we have the impact loan, which is based on the European Investment Bank for the front runners. If they have a reward or a specific award for having a sustainable production, they can get a European, green bonds is used by the green bond obligations and which are offered by the national government. They can have a discount on the interest rate of 60 basis points, and making innovations possible with higher risk innovation. European funding is also used for the innovation loans, just also for the example what I already mentioned with the reduction of, for project finance, and those are examples of the guarantee fund and also corporate investments. For project finance, specifically for solar and wind projects, we use that same loans. And even though also the example which is already mentioned, the biogas, which is now really more an interesting investment because of the high energy prices, and the geothermal energy specifically for horticulture is being used for an alternative energy for having those horticultural gas and make it more necessary. So with a mix of European investment bonds and also from green bonds and specifically loans from Rabobank, we make it possible to make the transition to more towards sustainable system. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, feel free.
Thank you very much for presenting. And of course, you mentioned that there is an overlap, but obviously it is very good to see in practice, I mean, the use of the different opportunities. So this was a good overlap. And I'm sure that there will be a question, even not right today, but afterwards, the eligible entities for the options that you have presented. So even if it's not, I mean, if you can answer right away would be good, or I mean, or to be prepared afterwards for this. I mean, I'm sure that this could be, they can find it on the website. I mean, the information, but still with 2 words. I mean, you can give some indication on that.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And now we continue in this panel with the intervention of Christina, the cluster manager of the year, and not only, but I'll give the opportunity Christina to present herself and obviously to motivate and give a good examples of the use and the importance of being at the matchmaking events. Thank you, Christina.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Teodora, for introducing me. Thank you so much for inviting me today and having me in this webinar. And the objective of my presentation today is really to motivate everyone participating, whether you are a cluster or you are SME, and for the first time you are listening to us, to participate in such B2B matchmakings. And I'm going to make an argument why. So as Teodora has introduced myself, I have had an honor to be elected as European Cluster Manager of this year. I'm also the director of Lithuanian Cluster Network, national network that we have, uniting around 50 clusters in Lithuania, more than 700 SMEs, and I am also a coordinating manager for the Agri-food Lithuania cluster. So when we talk about resource efficiency, this is one of the main topics probably in agri-food sector that you can hear nowadays, because right now the most important on the food value chain, what we are expecting, what we want to do with it, not only to transform food system overall, but we are talking about sustainability on one side, on the other side, making a food value chain resilient. And with the resource efficiency, this is probably the basics, the biggest background for it. And when we talk about resource efficiency, probably 2 main strategies that we can all agree on, that could be circular bioeconomy and digitalization. We have already heard today the policy framework on which the goals are being made. And then we've heard many nice projects and presentations of the clusters, which in most cases, we work already on the circular bioeconomy. So in order to implement such things as, for example, circular bioeconomy, how clusters could be one of the best tools to implement and to work with it. Circular bioeconomy in agri-food sector, it's quite complex and in many cases have many challenges to apply. So first of all, clusters, they come as an agent, as an innovative agent, where all the knowledge lies, where to find exact information, what is needed. Because in many cases for the SMEs, it's quite challenging to find exact what are the requirements, where are we moving, what kind of steps should be taken. And clusters come as innovation agents to provide such information and to share the knowledge. Also, clusters, especially because in many cases clusters are in the specific sector, so clusters are the experts in what they're doing actually, and they're cross-acting and cross-collaborating with different partnerships, where in many cases for the just SMEs quite hard, to to find also the needed partners. So the cluster becomes one of the building blocks if you want to find the right partnership for yourself and implement your goals in the companies. And of course, since clusters uniting certain kind of the SMEs, certain kind of organizations working on one or other topics, in this case, agri-food sector, so they hold very deep competence on the requirements, which is also very crucial if you want to continue and want to work and support the, for example, in this case, circular bioeconomy. And of course, cross-sectorial collaboration, cross-border collaboration, cross-member states collaboration. Clusters come as a front runners for sure for such an activities. So it becomes one spot, one shop where you can come in and find all the information which is needed. So in this case, when we're expecting B2B matchmaking to be held on the 5th of December in the agri-food sector. So I really encourage to participate and connect not only SMEs with SMEs, but clusters with clusters, clusters with SMEs, and most importantly, maybe the ones who are not the part of the clusters yet. I encourage you to find clusters on your national level and start collaborating also with the other clusters from the other countries. Another very big opportunity when we talk about digitalization, you can find clusters in every member state. And in many cases, now with the new tool, which is digital innovation hubs, with the very clear priority to digitalize, to transform different sectors, including agri-food, clusters are the founders of digital innovation hubs. If not, I am sure that they are already collaborating very closely together. For example, we have had a the biggest agri-food forum yesterday in Baltics, and we've been talking about clusters and DIGS, EDIGS collaboration. And the good part was that in many cases, cluster was or is was the founder or is the part of the consortium which has created digital innovation hub. So this is a big step where also collaboration, B2B matchmaking could bring lots of value, because if you want to implement resource efficiency technologies in your cluster, in your company, in your organization. So on the other side, on the other side, clusters can bring you technologies, can bring you the ones who need those the technologies, and they can connect you directly with the digital innovation hub. So it becomes that in the whole food value chain, if clusters in the agri-food, it connects you directly with the digitalization agents. And I think this is very important and very easy step then to go ahead and proceed with the implementation of technologies, and in this case, energy efficiency technologies. As an example, very briefly, I'm gonna give how our cluster operates, and in many cases, this is the case how other clusters work also. When we talk about the energy efficiency technologies in agri-food sector, we usually can find, we usually apply this to the whole food value chain, but if we talk about the primary production, so mostly it is soil and nutritional, saving, preserving soil, then soil and carbon, and then saving the water. So you can find the same goals also moving up to the food value chain, at the secondary production, and even at the consumer, including food waste. So as a cluster, we create the ecosystem, and that's what all clusters do. So we have science institutions, universities on one side. We create startup ecosystems. We work directly with governmental organizations, different investment funds, or find out the information and have the knowledge where the funding could be found and what kind of schemes are available for the funding. And of course, as a cluster, we participate in many different international projects, EU projects, from which directly also there is a possibility to get funding. Today, we've heard many different possibilities where you could find funding for the implementation of innovations in your organizations. And clusters also in many cases have this knowledge. So you come in one spot and you can find out where you can find certain technologies, not only find them, but also test them. When I say test them, that means that clusters and as our cluster, we have the pilots we have implemented, or we know where the pilots are implemented, where certain technologies are being demonstrated. So it's very easy to see and then to touch this technology before going right into implementing it into the organization. Also, since we are creating startups ecosystem, so it's another big opportunity for the SMEs. We could bring startups and help with the collaboration and testing the newest, the deep tech technologies, which is very crucial if we are going for the energy sufficient technologies implementation. And as you see, our cluster, we work directly with the technology implementation, big data, artificial intelligence, blockchains and robotics, and etc. So we have huge experience on how digital innovation hubs work, how clusters work, where to find the funding, where to test it, where to have the background for the pilot. And in many cases, SMEs, you as an SME, can easily become a pilot ground. So the only thing what you need to do, then go and find what you're looking for, either national level or international level, and such events as B2B matchmaking, this, as we're gonna have very soon, is the best ground to do this. And this is just in a very short presentation. For example, last year, we have implemented more than 30 different use cases towards moving towards resource efficiency. And this is just one case. If you're still wondering whether those new technologies are worth for the implementing and whether it's worth and it's really bringing resource efficiency. So this is just a very short presentation how it's impacting on the economic level, environmental level, and other impacts. This is the within field management zoning trial. The main problem was it was a big farm with lots of crops and lack of skilled workers, lack of the analyzing system, late notices of different diseases, lack of information of nutrition in the crops. And it was done with the brand new technology using drones, so reducing the actual human spent hours on the work. And as you see, other percentages and other KPIs impact is quite big. So this is just one case, and like I said, we have many more that we could present. So this is in a very short, and one more time, I'm encouraging to come and try to find this right partner. Or if you even won't find the partner, at least come talk with the ones you are interested, because such active clusters as we are and others, you can find many of those on ECCP, of course, platform also. They know exactly, they have the knowledge where to find money, what kind of technologies are on top, where you can see the pilots, where, and in many cases also invite you to join the clusters, and then later on to invite you to join different consortiums, partnerships, networking, and in that case, helping not only for your company directly, for your organization, but also helping with our main goal that we are moving towards, that's a sustainable food value chain, which is resilient to any crisis which could come. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christina, for these inspirational words and encouraging participants not only to join the matchmaking event, but also to join, if they're presenting SMEs, to join clusters and different networks, because you have clearly demonstrated the importance of clusters towards different activities and actions. So thank you for that. As we are running really late, we are running with half an hour from the time that we have set for the webinar. I know it is really important, so we will go to the next session, which is resource efficiency technologies. No, we went through this, so we are going to the next one, which is innovative cluster fertilizer production methods, where I would like to invite Margherita Genoa, Communication Officer, to start her presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Theodora, for having me today to this event. I guess that you are now able to see my screen.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. And I'm Margherita Genoa, and I'm Communication and Community Officer at the Biorefining Cluster Europe. And today I have the pleasure to introduce you our platform and its initiatives and activities. So what is the Biorefining Cluster Europe? The Biorefining Cluster Europe, it's a platform interconnecting projects and people within the domain of the bio-based resource recovery. This platform has been initially founded as part of the Interreg Northwestern Europe project Biorefine, which ended in 2015. After this date, the cluster has become an independent platform, a well-known platform powered by the University of Ghent. Our ambition is to support the European projects which are involved in the promotion of circular economy, but more than this, we aim at reducing the knowledge fragmentation that consortia of EU-funded projects might experience once their project ends. So meaning that in some cases, project results are not very well disseminated, that somehow lost in after the project ends. So we will try to reduce, to limit this situation and reduce the knowledge fragmentation. How we do this is by stimulating the interaction between project members and experts, gathering them in networks, so to enhance the impact of the project and accelerate the market implementation of innovative solutions. So, sorry. I will go briefly through our network. Since its foundation, the cluster gathered more than 80 European-funded projects, of which 36 are currently active, and they contribute on daily to the BCE activities. We cover the entire European Union, and we reach more than 250 entities and more than 750 experts. Joining the cluster is completely free, but is commitment-based, meaning that once the project agrees to join our network, they are asked to actively contribute to our activities and objectives. but which are our objectives then? So the biorefining cluster is built around 6 major thematic areas, which are the following. So we have nutrient recycling, renewable energy, water recovery and use, biomaterials and eco-design, biochemicals, and value chain assessment. So as you might imagine, each of our project member cover at least one of these topics. Bearing this in mind, and also the challenges that these topics pose, the biorefining cluster is commit itself to building up and strengthening strategies between projects that are dealing with the same topic. We foster the dissemination and the stakeholder outreach by adopting the triple helix approach. We work to enhance the research, the policy and business development. And last but not least, we also identify gaps in knowledge and we try to address them with new project proposals. So, how we do reach these objectives in practice? So the cluster propose a different kind of services that includes the exchange of information, the transfer of knowledge by organizing joint project meetings and facilitating workshops. Also, we gave our project members enjoy a good exposure of their outputs thanks to the BioRefine Bulletin, which is a joint newsletter that is sent out on a monthly basis and reaches almost 3,000 stakeholders. And we also have the BioRefine Cluster website, where you can also find an interesting section which is called e-library, where we actually stored all the public deliverables produced by the EU projects of our community. So these are documents that can be consulted at any time by all the stakeholders that are interested in reading them. And of course, we use our social media to boost the activities of our project members. As part of the dissemination activities, the BioRefine Cluster launched in 2019 the European Sustainable Nutrient Initiative, also called the ESNI Conference, which is a platform for policymakers, researchers, industry representatives to discuss and exchange on the development on the nutrient recycling and reuse at European level. And this year, we also organized the first edition of the BioRefine Conference, which was a partner event of the European Green Week. And specifically, this event is aimed at highlighting current research innovations in the 6 main domains that we mentioned before. So in both cases, the projects of our community are invited or have the chance to co-organize parallel workshops that might be focused on policy measures, technological innovations, and so on. But the BCE is not only promoting its own events, but we also support and promote some major international events like the RRB, the Renewable Resources and Biorefineries, the Manu Resource, and the European Sustainable Phosphorus Conference, among the others. As a last point, I would like to drive your attention on the nutrient recycling community, which is one of the most important initiatives that we have in our that we launched recently. In fact, the nutrient recycling community was already initiated in 2017 by the cluster as a continuation of the IP Agri focus group on nutrient recycling. And recently, the BioRefine cluster, together with the Ferti Manure project, decided to relaunch this community with the aim to foster the collaboration with relevant initiatives and projects in Europe, and also to have this platform to facilitate the knowledge exchange and good practices. So the community has been completely restructured around the 5 working groups, which are the following. So we have the technologies for nutrient recovery, the agronomic performance of fertilizer products, sustainability assessment, the new business models and market opportunities for bio-based fertilizers, and the policy working group. Each working group is led by a project of our community, and the main aim is to discuss together with other participating projects to identify the major topics, which are the most relevant bottlenecks and challenges that projects encounter while they are working toward a better transition to a greener economy, and also to find a common ground to address these challenges together. So the major activities that we have within the nutrient recycling community, which is which is for BCE members only, are the clustering of projects which are working on nutrient recycling, the knowledge sharing, as I was mentioned before, like identification of common methodologies and approaches, and we also promote joint experiments and joint publication, as well as staff exchange through secondments or others. So if you are interested in knowing more about the nutrient recycling community and the biorefined cluster itself, you can contact me here. You have my details. If you want to follow the biorefined cluster, you have the references of the website, as well as the references of the social media. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margherita, for the presentation, as well as, I'm taking the opportunity to invite you as a cluster to take part in the matchmaking event on the 5th of December, but also to share with your members, because you've been giving the good overlook of your members, as well as those that are part of the nutrient recycling community, because I believe for them would be also important to meet the different SMEs and clusters that are part of the forthcoming matchmaking event. So thank you very much. And we are moving forward and going to the presentation of Nathan Demon, who is the BCS engineer, biogas consulting and support. So thank you, Nathan, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'll first share my screen.
Yes, if you can, yes, just make it on a full, yes, perfect, okay.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I'm Nathan de Man, and I'm the technical project manager of the Rustica project, which is a Horizon 2020 project in which we try to demonstrate that we can use different bio-based technologies to make bio-based fertilizers using the waste streams of the regions. So we're not going to go very wide, but we're going to take the waste streams of each region and use it to produce a fertilizer in that region itself. So during this project, we want to make a bio-based fertilizer, but also set up a market, a value chain, and get really the involvement of all stakeholders in all different regions to cooperate. That's why we have always a feedback loop with different stakeholders. We organize workshops with them, not only on the regional level, not only with farmers, but also with distributors, recycling companies, but also big, really big European or global players like, for example, Syngenta is one of the stakeholders who provides us with information. So during the project, we focus mainly on 5 regions. 4 of them are in Europe, and 1 of them is in Colombia. These regions provide us with feedstocks and stakeholders. And then we will use 5 different technologies to perform, 5 different technologies to produce different building blocks, which are then used to produce one fertilizer, which we can adapt by changing the ratios of each building block. So to go in a bit more of detail, we have the feedstocks, which we divide in different categories based on degradability. The easily degradable feedstocks can be used in our capronic acid platform, which is actually an anaerobic digestion technology, who actually hydrolyzes the feedstock into nutrient-rich solutions, which can be further used for the production of microbial protein, or used for electrodialysis to produce NPK solutions. Furthermore, we also use insect cultivation to produce insect frass and insect biomass. Insect biomass is rich in nitrogen and can release it slowly to the soil, as can microbial biomass. And insect frass is actually a component which can also increase the structure of the soil. Furthermore, we also use pyrolysis, not only to gain energy, but also to produce biochar. And biochar can improve the soil structure, but also the water content of the soil. All of these building blocks we mix together with compost, which we don't really investigate because it's an already well-known technology. We will make blends out of it, and then we will test it in all different kinds of agricultural fields, like fruit production, greenhouse cultivation, or for field crops. And this is actually the Rustica project in a nutshell. So if you have any more questions, you can always contact me or take a look at our website, which is the rusticaproject.eu. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think it is important because the fertilizers production, it's one of the key important things. I mean, for this, not only for the webinar today, but also overall in the matchmaking event. So I'm taking also this opportunity to invite you to take part in the matchmaking day on the 5th of December, as well as to spread it across your community. So I would like now to go further, presenting Dr. Harry Povainen to present the bio and circular cluster.
Yes, thank you, Theodora, for inviting me for giving this presentation. And here I am today representing the bio and circular cluster, North Savo, Finland. And we have been prepared this presentation together with the Professor Reijo Lappalainen. So our website can be located from the address on this slide, and you may find a lot of useful information, including our collaborators and also our contact information if you want to contact us. And the idea of bio and circular economic cluster is that we support the utilization and valorization of industrial side streams with many different biorefinery technologies, including slow pyrolysis and fermentation, and then there are many more. Our cluster is fairly new. It has been registered on the European Commission cluster platform during the last spring of 2022, and we promote a sustainable bioeconomy and circular economy, of course, since our name is the bio-circular cluster. And also our aim is to support the development of the waste management globally. And also we have found that the biohydrogen production is one of the quite interesting way to do the biorefinery. So this biohydrogen is not based on the electrolysis, but we are using microbeads in order to degrade the biomass in order to create biohydrogen. So later on, if you would be interested to collaborate, one of the European Horizon project, which we could apply together, you are very welcome to contact us. Just to mention one of our current project, which is called Biosphere North Savo, where we are actually creating circular fertilizers and soil attainment and soil improvements from the industrial size streams. So here we would please concentrate on the action item P, where we are creating circular fertilizers and soil improvements by utilizing local industrial side streams with the different technologies. And we are doing this together with the University of Eastern Finland, Natural Resource Institute of Finland, and also this project has been funded through the European Union Structural Fund. And what we do in practice, we mixed different industrial side streams, and we have been running some tests in the pot scale and also in the field scales, especially together with Natural Resources Institute of Finland. And what are inside or what are the ingredients in the circular fertilizers? There are different kind of ashes from different companies. There are biochar manufactured through the slow pyrolysis technology, from spruce, from pine spruce combination, and diglycose tree as well. And we also use as an ingredient a couple of different composted materials, including fish waste and offal. And also, as a comparison, we use like a traditional way to which the farmers would use in their farms traditionally. So there is a raw manure and salt shaker. And we also have a zero pots where we don't add any fertilizers in order to compare the growth from different pots. And also, these test matrices were examined in 3 parallel pots in order with 2 soil types in order to prevent like human errors or different lighting conditions. And just to mention about the hydrogen production, so we are now currently doing that in a lab scale. So the process itself is quite similar if you would compare that for methane production, except that we are using a little bit different bacteria, and also the time what is needed to create the hydrogen is a little bit shorter compared to biomethane production. And we are also running, especially University of Eastern Finland is involved and for a couple of academic projects where they are researching sustainable binders and coating technologies. And also another project to mention, WoodPro, which creates sustainable value addition from forest residues. And also Savonia is participating on the ongoing HOOP project, funded through the Horizon 2020 program. And also we have been involved with the Ruritas and value waste mentioned earlier during this session. So thank you very much on behalf of Bio and Circular Cluster. And here are our contact information of mine and Professor Reijo Lappainen. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presenting the cluster again. I think in your activities, it's a kind, I would like to kindly ask to share with your members as well the information about the forthcoming matchmaking event, as well as the rest of the activities that you will see at the end. I will share with the other participants and the speakers as well, because I believe would be very useful for the entire community, not only me, but of course everyone who made the efforts for today and putting the overall agenda together. So without further delay, we are going to the next session, which is renewable energy deployment. So here I would like to present Romualdas Petraitis, Smart Energy DIH, who is the Project Development Director. So Romualdas, the floor is yours. Are you with us? Yes, okay, perfect. We see your screen, but we don't hear you.
Yeah, I just make an
Yes, okay. Okay, so
upload from the,
right now, so the floor is yours.
okay. Just a moment, please. I'd like to start from the beginning, sorry. Yeah. Thank you to having me today. I shortly introduce Smart Energy DIG. This is DIG was established by initiative of Lithuanian Confederation of Industrialists, the biggest business association in Lithuania, in 2019, and we have around 30 participants, mostly of enterprises, startups, working in renewable energy, and also we have some universities, scientific institutions, and big company as well. I start with my, now about our solutions for agriculture sector. Agriculture solar power plants for more efficient farming. Using of solar panels in the agriculture, it is possible to achieve the following results. A typical agro-accumulative solar power plant can produce up to 900 kilowatts per hour of electricity per year from an installed capacity of 1 kilowatt. When growing crops in the shade of solar modules, the yield can increase up to 2 times compared to conventional agriculture. The harvest ripe faster up to 30%. The part provided by the photovoltaic modules ensures a cooler surface during the day and a warmer temperature at night. What is the most important, the system also has a lower vapor pressure deficit. In some cases, water loss can be reduced by as much as 80%. Agriculture and solar power plants, smart environmental protection, and combination of energy interests. From this, we have some more benefits. A cleverly installed agroelectric plants protects the soil from erosion, smoothes out temperature fluctuation. It better retains moisture of the soil surface, thus saving water for irrigation. This allows agricultural land to be used for both crop production and clean solar electricity generation. The advantages of agri-photovoltaic compared to conventional support facilities. With the help of these advantages, the following results are achieved. Growing food and generating green energy. Durable and robust protection for your crops, resistant to all types of weather. No more worries about storms or hail showers, and less affected by extreme heat. No investment in expense conventional cultivation support facilities. No labor to assemble and disassemble the plastic or foil. Give your company a sustainable look, more stable climate, lower maximum temperatures and higher minimum temperatures. Part of the power will be diverted to your company. This gives you an annual financial benefit and makes your company more sustainable. Requirements according to physiology. This is the same benefits as I mentioned before. I mean, growing fruit and generating green energy and so on. And this gives your company a sustainable look. More stable climate, part of the power will be diverted to your company. This gives you an annual financial benefit and makes your company more sustainable. Existing solutions, fully customizable constructions according to crop physiology needs. Easy construction assembly, reassembly, disassembly for adoption to another crops or relocation purposes. Accessories possibilities as net lighting, hanging, water collection, plant breeding. Different solar modules angles and fixed position or using automatic trackers. Thank you very much for your attention. This is my email if you would like to contact me, and our Smart Energy website.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us for presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sharing the presentations to the participants, as well as we'll make them available on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, so for future contacts. And I also take the opportunity to invite you to take part in the actual matchmaking event, which is scheduled to be on the 5th of December. And now I would like to welcome on the floor Natasha Schwarzbach, Director Global Procurement Sustainability of PepsiCo. Natasha, the floor is yours. Natasha?
Yes, hello, how are you? Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to present PepsiCo Positive and our PEP Plus Renew program. I'm Natasha Schwarzbach, Director Global Procurement Sustainability for PepsiCo. So what is PepsiCo Positive? It's our strategic end-to-end transformation with sustainability at the centre. And this is how PepsiCo will create growth and value by operating within our own planetary boundaries and inspiring positive change for the planet and the people. We see it in three interconnected pillars around positive agriculture, positive value chain, and positive choices. For positive agriculture, it's very much about how we source the crops and ingredients in a way that really accelerates regenerative agriculture and strengthens farming communities. Positive choices is about inspiring people through our brands to make choices that create more smiles for them and the planet. And positive value chain, make products in a way that builds a circular and inclusive economy. And this is the pillar that I'm going to focus on over the next few minutes. So what is the PEP Renew program? So it's one of the first collaborations of its kind, and it's really to help our value chain partners access renewable electricity. It's designed to do two things: educate PepsiCo's value chain partners about RE, I'll probably say RE from now on, choices, and number two, help to speed up that transition to renewable electricity through aggregate power purchase agreements, PPAs, and other options. You know, PepsiCo has a commitment for zero net emissions and a 2030 commitment to reduce our Scope 3 emissions by 2030. That means we need to pull multiple levers, and one of those levers is moving to and accelerating the use of renewable electricity. So we see it as sort of 4 different methods of renewable electricity procurement. I'm not going to go into a deep dive here, but you can see that we have considered both the pros and the cons of each of them, whether they're unbundled energy attribute certificates, bundled EACs, or on-site generation. The off-site power purchasing agreements is where we're really focusing on with our PEP Renew program. It provides that greater sustainability impact. It's a longer-term solution. We're aware that it does have, comes with a complex steel structure, and there's a long lead time. So how does the program work? We've partnered with Schneider Electric, and our value chain partners, of which we have about 160 registered, mostly in North America and Europe. They register at, you can see the website there, neonetworkexchange.com/PEP Renew program. Schneider Electric onboards those partners to the program, and we have a series of education programs. And the partners learn more about renewable electricity through educational content and webinars hosted by Schneider Electric. Our value chain partners are also able to have contact with Schneider Electric to really use them as a consultant to help them learn more and accelerate their ambitions to move to renewable electricity. Partners and Schneider explore different opportunities such as EACs or aggregate power purchase agreements through this network. And then the partners adopt a renewable electricity climate change action, reducing their scope 3 emissions. That means for PepsiCo, we reduce our scope 3 emissions. With regards to educational content, there are about 7 sessions, 1-hour educational webinar every 2 weeks. They do have an opportunity to access different content that's available on the platform. And we're looking to really evolve that session content in 2023 and make this even more available in various markets and across different languages. So far we've had, as I've said, we have 160 value chain partners involved in the program. We're moving towards North America, creating a cohort and looking to initiate the first power purchase agreement. And the cohort formation in Europe is happening in those early stages. So it's really interesting that this is a matchmaking session that's happening, because this is an opportunity to see who in your peers and your suppliers can perhaps work together to form a PPA and buying cohort workstream. So thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And it is exactly as you said, the idea of today's webinar is to set the ground, basically, to test about the forthcoming matchmaking event, basically where there is a real opportunity to test the chances to connect business. Yes.
The chances, the appetite and the opportunity to connect with businesses to really help and accelerate that path forward.
Yes. So thank you very much for being with us today. And actually with your presentation, we are closing the content part of the webinar. Marian Moravko, who was about to present in this session, unfortunately he had to leave the meeting earlier, but we will share with the rest of the audience. We will share his presentation as well as his contact details, so you can contact him. And now we will go to the next steps, though it was, we had some delays in the program as well as some technical issues at the very beginning. We are nearly, with the time frame, so I will not make more delay, but would like to give you some overview of the next steps. So an important part of for the matchmaking event, which is taking place on the 5th of December. It's before that is the technical webinar, which is taking place next Thursday, 24th of November, from 9:30 to 10:30 Central European Time. You need to register for this webinar. The webinar is actually in a format of a meeting where we will focus on the technical aspects, how to use the P2Match platform where the actual matchmaking event is happening, how to make the best use of the matchmaking day, to give you some guideline how to create a better profile, how to put your offer. So this is you will have a chance as participants to to meet the other participant who already registered for the actual matchmaking event, to place more questions, because it is in a format of a meeting. So this is an important. You can see the joining link in the question and in the chat box, as well as you can see it on the European Cluster Collaboration platform. And the next important event is taking place on the 30th of November from 8:30 to 9:30 Central European Time. This is the Agri-food cluster activities for a sustainable and resilient ecosystem. So please join us for the EU cluster talk. As you can see, we have put a lot of effort in our forthcoming activities. This is an important topic. And then it's coming the Agri-food matchmaking event on the 5th of December. It is important. This is the matchmaking day. It will last between 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon, with few breaks. After you make your profile in B2Match, you will be able to make your own agenda. So I encourage you to make the registration, join us for the next week technical webinar, as well as create your profile, start creating your profiles in B2Match. We will go through the information technicalities next week. And I hope you will have a very successful meetings on the 5th of December. All the information will be, once again, will be published on the European Cluster Collaboration platform, the presentations together with the recording of today's webinar. Thank you very much to all who stay with us today, and I'll see you soon.